Back to the anonymous throwdown, baby. We're back after a long hiatus after we were berated for being completely correct about Suicide Squad. We are back to actually talk about Suicide Squad and how Sefton Hill is one incompetent mofo, and also Arkham Shadow soon, maybe a few other topics as well. So, have you guys read the Bloomberg report about Suicide Squad and how they lost $200 million?
Yeah, bro. It's not just Sefton Hill. Come on. Don't give him all the smoke. It's everybody. It is the whole organization, top to bottom, executives all the way down to the bottom. And the thing that's okay, so we should quickly recap what's in the report. But let me just first say I have to get this off my chest. The craziest thing about the entire article, I could not believe this, is WB was literally quoted as saying they thought after they had seen the game that it was going to be a $1 billion game. They thought they played Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, and they said, you know what, guys, this is going to make $1 billion. This is going to be one of the best gaming franchises of all time. They literally thought that. And so that's why I just made this clarification. We can't put all the blame on Sefton Hill. All these people are incompetent. Yes. Every single one of them, especially the executives, more than anything else. Because Sefton Hill, to his credit, he's made good games. Okay, Sefton Hill has made good games. He made Batman Arkham City. He made Batman Arkham City. He made Batman Arkham Knight. The executives have never done anything right, ever. They've always sucked. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hijack this. I don't want to already get into it, but
no, I want to talk about that too, because that is one thing that is pretty funny, that WB thought that Suicide Squad, the game, was going to be like $1 billion franchise when their movies haven't even hit $1 billion yet. Like literally, they made Suicide Squad, the first one in 2016, that got like $700 million, and then the second one only made like $150 million, which lost them like $100 million.
Do you want to know why that is?
Yeah.
I don't even think an Arkham game has made $1 billion. I really don't. $1 billion for a game to make is ridiculous. That's like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 level.
By itself, probably.
The reason why is because they're like, well, all these other games as a service games make $1 billion. Look at Fortnite. Look at Warzone. Look at this. Look at that. They're so freaking clueless that they don't understand that the superhero game genre does not work in a games as a service, live service looter shooter format. It just doesn't. But they don't get that. So they looked at the earnings reports for Fortnite and they're like, we should do that. We can be Fortnite. That's how freaking dumb these people are. That's how much they don't understand video games. They're all freaking boomer corporate finance bros that run these companies, and they're so lost.
Mm-hmm.
So lost.
What do you think about it? What do you think about that, Jake? What do you think about WB trying to make them $1 billion franchise through the gaming department?
So first, let me ask you this. When you boot up a Batman game or a Spider-Man game or a superhero game or just any general narrative-driven IP, what are you most excited for outside of like playing as that character? Like, what is it that you're going into really antsy to experience?
The world and the story.
The story in the world.
The story in the world. Yeah, that's like the main thing that I usually go in. Like I want to traverse the world and then like interact with the side missions throughout the world that's actually there.
Yeah, you want to get immersed in a story. And Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League completely throws that out the window and is trying to mimic Fortnite and trying to mimic live service games like Destiny, which Sefton Hill didn't play. He's acknowledged, like, I didn't actually play any of these other games. And ultimately, I was so baffled reading through this article, like trying to just understand what's going on. The biggest takeaway that I took, and yeah, I'm with you, Kobe. I'll give Sefton Hill some credit. He's done some great work as a creative director.
Yeah.
But I think that we're learning that he's not a very good writer because Arkham Knight, one of the weakest aspects of that game was the story. Most people across the board will acknowledge, Under the Red Hood was shoehorned in there. It definitely didn't have the quality of something like Arkham City. It was a big step down narratively. Now, it's still good. I think it's still a really decent story, but it's by far the weakest of the three. And also, he had the two previous games that had a lot of great build-up to go off of. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has no nuance, no character development, nothing redeeming about it. It's a rage bait story.
Oh, did I lose Jake?
Jake, I lost Jake.
Jake, we lost you.
Sorry, I lost.
Keep going. You're good. Keep going. You're good.
So now, okay, where did you lose me?
You were at
It's a rage bait story.
Yeah, that's where we were at.
Okay. So it's a rage bait story with no character development. And so you have Deadshot and Harley Quinn who aren't likable, never change, never like improve as characters or anything. And now they're acting like they're teasing, actually the Justice League might not be dead. And we're all like, yeah, Sefton, we knew you weren't going to kill them off. That was never like the thing. We never like it's as obvious as Jason Todd being the Arkham Knight. Like we knew you weren't going to kill the Arkhamverse Justice League. So it's a story that just doesn't work. It sounds like from this report that he's like just randomly cut random parts of the script for no real reason because he's a perfectionist, I guess. So I think what we're learning really is that Sefton Hill, without a strong writer like Paul Dini, is actually a fairly weak storyteller. So that was kind of my large takeaway from it. And without a strong story, a superhero game doesn't work. We saw that with Gotham Knights. It was a pretty okay story, but nothing that really stood out. We saw it with Marvel's Avengers. But every time a superhero game has a great story, even if the gameplay is just okay, like Guardians of the Galaxy, it works because that's what people are there for. So that's why it failed. And I cannot believe that Warner Brothers looked at this and thought it was going to be $1 billion franchise. And it does show that all they did was look at the user interface and said, hey, damage numbers like in Fortnite. Guys, we did it.
I think they saw the cutscenes is what happened. I think they were looking at the cutscenes. They're like, this is like top tier. Oh, over the top. This is like going to be next generation stuff. And they're like, this is like movie like, whatever got them. I don't even know if it was actually the gameplay. I think it was more like the story aspect of it. But even still, in my opinion, I'm giving Sefton Hill a lot of heat because, well, there was also a little line in the report that said that he would literally wait weeks upon like almost months for the game to be checked on or like certain things to be checked on. So it would bottleneck to a certain point where now they're like not even being able to work on certain things because the person on top hasn't checked anything. So it's like Sefton Hill, the way he ran this game, the way he basically took it from stones, he was going to make a puzzle solving multiplayer game after Arkham Knight. Like, what the fuck are we doing? What are we doing?
That's the other thing. He should have left Rocksteady after Arkham Knight. If he didn't want to do a DC game, and I'm not saying that studios can't do different things or branch out. And who knows, maybe it was going to be really cool. Maybe it would have been Rocksteady's like Ratchet and Clank or something to pad out releases. But after Suicide Squad, I can say with certainty that Sefton Hill was just over the Arkhamverse, didn't really want to touch it again. And he should have been out of there. He should have handed off the reins to someone that was really passionate about doing a Superman game or something of that caliber. I just am so stunned that it was Sefton Hill's fault for a lot of it. Like, I couldn't believe the article.
And Sefton Hill, he wanted a live service. Like that Stones game was going to be a multiplayer, most likely a live service game from what we know. And then they pivoted to the Suicide Squad game, which was going to be, of course, what got into what it turned into now. But the fact that they switched to the Suicide Squad game and then wanted to release that in 2019, like I want to see what this game looked like in 2019, 2020, and 2021. Like this game could not have been, I mean, like I just don't even know. I'm baffled every time I think about what kind of like led up to this game's release and how bad the actual setup was for this. Because they could have done so much with this this little concept of Kill the Justice League. They could have done a lot here with it.
Well, and this is just more back to the point that I made before we got on the hit record when we were talking earlier about how we're 6 months ahead of the curve on all this stuff. So like we were saying and warning people that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is not going to be good. We were saying that before the game came out when it was not a consensus opinion to say that. You were not allowed to say that. You were going to get dogpiled on Twitter, which we all did. We would take turns getting dogpiled.
I got blocked
as far
by
as
devs.
I saw.
I got blocked by writers and devs.
But not only that, it was just the dogpile from the fans. These people who were dogpiling us, they're all gone. Not one of them is playing the game, yet alone tweeting or defending the game in any way. They all have disappeared. And the same is true, by the way, of Sefton Hill. What did we say? You go to our Twitter of what I know Marcel and I tweeted this, Jake, you probably did too. Months ago, I was saying that Sefton Hill deserves most of the blame for this game. He was there for 90% of the development. He left at the last minute. He got off the Titanic as the bow was just going to get under the water. It all was already sunk, and he hopped off the ship. And people are like, oh, it's not Sefton Hill's fault. He didn't do it. It's like, go ahead, Marcel. I'm sorry.
No. Well, I'm gonna add to your point. He left before the first official gameplay release, like the full length gameplay release of the actual Suicide Squad. So go ahead and continue. I'm just saying that's when he left.
Right, and the game was in development for 8 years, and so he left a year. years, some change. So, I mean, he was there 85% of the way through. He was there from the conception to the story development to overseeing the edits. And he was really overseeing everything and approving everything, as you said, such to the point that he was a bottleneck for all the developers, that everything had to be approved by him. And so he had his fingerprint really over every single aspect of the game. And as Jake highlighted, I think it's very evident in the ways in which the game works. The gameplay is pretty good. It's not definitely not as good as Arkham, but it's pretty solid. It's fun. It's addicting gameplay. There's not really any negatives I have to say about the gameplay. And that's very Sefton Hill. Like, that's very classic Sefton Hill. The graphics are really quite good, which is very classic Sefton Hill. The open world is completely empty, also classic Sefton Hill. And then when we go to the story perspective, also, as Jake highlighted, the fact that it's pretty classic Sefton Hill. It's not classic Paul Dini, but it is Sefton Hill. Sefton Hill's fingerprints are on the story. So I think that the article really corroborated, again, what we were saying from the very beginning, that nobody was believing, that everybody was ratioing me on Twitter for saying, which is that, hey, guys, Sefton Hill is the point person. He is we can't let him off the hook. And people are getting all mad about that. And this article has come forth and corroborated what we have been saying for quite a while.
Yeah, it's sad to see where they're at now, honestly, like the way that they came from. I mean, they could have easily pivoted to something really unique and special, but I mean, even their first concept to whatever multiplayer game they were doing, Stones, whatever puzzle solving game, like, did they really think that we wanted a whole ass game of like Riddler like puzzles? Is that what they really think we wanted as fans over here? Like, what the
Dude,
fuck are they thinking, bro?
I
Am I
guarantee
serious?
There were like 400 trophies isn't enough. We got to pump those up. Those are rookie numbers.
Gotta do
As
9
far as-
hours of that shit.
Yeah.
gets, I guarantee we're gonna find out that tank battles were in the game too.
100%.
They were gonna do it for Suicide Squad. They almost had King Shark riding around in a tank shooting around at people. Like, that shit would have made sense. Like,
Hey,
what the
you guys
fuck
like Deathstroke in a tank and Arkham Knight? Now we've got,
Harley Quinn
Joker in a tank, Harley in a tank. You get a tank. You get a tank. You get a tank. So, yeah, is there any final thoughts? Because I really want to talk about Arkham VR.
Okay.
But obviously, I don't mean to cut this short. If we want to keep talking about it,
I think
maybe just to recap, like, final thoughts on this, Jake.
I have one more question that I think is a good segue.
Yep.
What does Rocksteady need to do next in order to regain some public favor? Because they've lost all of their goodwill. Like, you look at Twitter, you look at their marketing, no one is happy with them right now. And understandably so, because they just released a game that was promoted as live service, but then they dropped season 1 and it was like just even worse than the base game by a long shot. It was so bad. I mean, my review, my initial review, I gave a 7.5, which in retrospect was way too high. But I gave it that because I was like, gameplay's solid. Clearly the story's not over. I'm willing to give it some leeway.
Wait. A 7.5?
No, hear me out. After Season of the Joker, it's a 4. I'm not even...
That's amazing. Yeah, that shit was pretty garbage, bro.
I no longer play the game. But in any sense, I'm not happy with Rocksteady. No one's really happy with Rocksteady. And I know that it's not like the developers' fault. I know that most of them were just doing what Sefton Hill and the executives were telling them to do. But I mean, the like reputation they had of anything they release is going to be a banger is gone. So what does their next game need to be in order to regain public faith? And personally, I think that they could go one of two ways. One is that they just do another Batman Arkham game, which is very safe. You just replicate the Arkham Knight mechanics. You tell like an Arkham Origin sequel where you're dual playing with Robin and, you have the origin of Prometheus or something. And it's just a solid game that they spend 2 or 3 years working on and releasing as soon as possible. Or if they want to be considered like a top tier A-list studio again, I think they got to do something a little riskier, like Superman or The Flash. But with that being said, after Suicide Squad, that would be a tall order. Again, the one piece of credence I'll give them is that Sefton Hill is no longer there calling the shots. It sounds like Warner Brothers is maybe open to letting them do their own thing again. So I could see a Superman or Flash game working out really well, but I would personally say a Batman game is the safest bet. What do you guys think on that?
Oh, I don't want them to do anything. Bro, I don't know. Like I see like the devs there are obviously still there. Apparently they're working on like Hogwarts Legacy Director's Cut and then like something else. Like
No, they've
they're taking
literally
it.
been demoted. They're demoted to what WB Montreal was demoted to. They
Yeah,
basically are just a support studio. They're an outsourced studio. They're probably making like plants and like chairs
yep.
for a game. Like it's sad, but that's really what they like. They went from being one of the best studios in the world to being a support studio to like, hey, Avalanche makes money with Harry Potter. You go make the chairs in Hogwarts now. Like design the chairs and design the couches. You know, like that's what they do now. So.
I think their only option would be to be Arkham. Like it's kind of sad to say that they're trapped in like the Arkham formula for them, but I mean, if most of the devs, like if you read the article, most of the devs didn't want to even, they were like shocked when they're like, we're making this shit. Why are we making Suicide Squad? Why are we making like a Arkham or like a multiplayer game? Why is Captain Boomerang shooting guns? This makes no sense. We should be,
Sorry to interrupt one more time. Did you see the
or they could easily go ahead.
did you sorry to interrupt, I didn't mean to interrupt, but did you see the part as well where they would hire people and they didn't know what the game was? And so
Yeah.
they probably moved their family to they're based in London, so they might have moved from different parts of Europe or maybe even the US. And then they got there. Can you imagine after Arkham Knight and you're like, I'm about to work at Rocksteady, one of the best studios in the world. And then next thing you know, you're designing fucking Captain Boomerang. Like, like
Yeah,
imagine how disappointed you would be.
you get
Really.
hired as a level designer. You're like, I can't wait to build like a Metallo boss fight for a
Yep.
Superman. And then it's like, okay, we want you to design a level where Toyman asks you to go collect shards by shooting up purple zits. Have fun.
It's so sad because
It's
it's almost
horrible.
like if it's like you got hired to a restaurant and then they're like, wait a minute, we're not going to give you the recipe yet. Just wing it real quick, all right? Throw the lettuce on, wherever, throw the tomato on, and we don't care how you do it. Just flop it all on there. Grill the fucking patty for about 5 seconds and then throw it on the burger. We don't care if it's raw. Just toss it out there.
It's a little like that, but I'd actually argue that it would be like going to work for the best pizza joint in town, and then you show up and they're like, "Hey, we're actually switching to like very mid burgers." So
Burgers that nobody's gonna eat.
Yep. They wanted pizza and they're getting.
Oh my god! And then, but then everybody's gonna walk by the door of the establishment and be like, "Your burgers suck," and just tell you that every day, and like, and that's your reward for your work of coming into work every day. It's just so I mean, that's the part that I mean, it does suck, but it's also just the brutal reality of it. Like, fans are gonna like give their honest opinion. I mean, I never have nor would like at a developer with my opinion of the game. I just never would do that. I'm not trying to flood their DMs or their inbox, but at the same point, I am going to give my opinion. I know other fans do that. They'll tweet them and whatnot, which I don't think you should do at all. But in terms of just the general backlash, I mean, the game did deserve poor reviews. Let's just be honest. I mean, I don't think we can sugarcoat that. It deserved to be panned. In fact, it should have been panned more. I don't think it's a 6 out of 10 as many developers gave it. I think it's actually closer to around a 3, if I'm being honest. Here's my thought about this, and I've thought a lot about this, that what their next step is, because on the one hand, a bigger splash that they would make would be Superman or Flash to announce that. It would make a bigger splash. They've already done 3 Arkham games. They've kind of I do feel a little bit like they've done a lot of what they wanted to do with the franchise. There are some new innovations they could make, like having a populated Gotham, but I think that they really are going to struggle with actually pulling off a Superman game and a Flash game. And the thing is like, do we really trust them to actually pull off Superman after this game? I mean, I don't, Arkham, I do think that even if the creative geniuses have left and whatnot, I still think they can do Arkham. The code is there. The foundation is there. The side mission formula, the main mission formula, like there is kind of a formula there. If they bring in a good writer, to do the story, they could have a great game. Maybe even they could I feel like they could actually make the best Arkham game ever if they bring in a phenomenal writer.
All they
And
need to do is, honestly, in my opinion, like for Arkham, just reboot it from the beginning, or just make a whole new franchise, like within.
almost like Call of Duty did. I mean,
Yep,
you look at
exactly.
Call of Duty and they're redoing Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, and at first I was like, that's kind of a bad idea, but it's worked phenomenally. I mean, the games have sold very well. The fans love it. Most of it, of course, we're Call of Duty fans. We complain about everything, but for the most part, fans are happy with it and buying the games. And I think you're right. Honestly, they could reboot and do Arkham Asylum, and we would eat it up. I mean, it just
Arkham
expand
Asylum
it,
set
more
within a week.
bosses,
Yeah,
more side missions. Yeah, totally.
that's it.
And if the fast turnaround, I mean, imagine going back to a more confined, smaller scale Arkham game, being able to pump it out in 2 years rather than,
Yeah.
the years that's industry standard now for whatever
Mhm.
game. And that could be a faster flip for the reputation. Yeah, no, I like that.
So, I mean, in an ideal world, yeah, make like a Superman game. Imagine the splash that would make, even with their diminished reputation. It would still make a big splash, and people would be very excited about that. They just can't. I just don't think they can pull it off. I really don't. I don't think that they're going to
I say give
also
it
be
to
willing to
Insomniac.
invest the money to get the
Mhm.
people to pull it off.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't see it.
I say have WB pull a smart one real quick, go to Insomniac, get on your fucking knees and just pray for them to make a Flash or Superman game in the same like vibe as Spider-Man. And I guarantee you they'll fucking do it in like 4 years. Insomniac would probably pump it out in like a couple years. So I think Insomniac would be
They
a better
would.
choice for like Superman and Flash than honestly Rocksteady right now, especially this current day Rocksteady. And here's another thing, just last little point about Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker. They're at Hunter Star Games now, and they just got bought out by Xbox, who's like infamous for shutting down indie studios that just made their first popular game. So I don't see Sefton Hill. I mean, if he has to really pull out all the stocks to make sure that he actually is going to keep that studio afloat, because like it's so weird. I don't know. I think that 100 Star Game saying that new development studio that they have is just it's such a spit in the face to not only Rocksteady, of course, it's a spit in the face to WB, but it just feels like more a spit in the face to Rocksteady. And they did it like before I think Suicide Squad even came out. It was just so weird. That's just such a weird decision because I don't trust them at all for a game anyway. Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker, they're the ones that made Suicide Squad. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Well, going back to that food analogy, it would be like, you're making crap burgers, and then your boss who's making you make crap burgers is like, all right, I'm going to go open a new pizza joint down the street. See ya.
yeah,
Have fun
exactly.
here. All right, we can move on.
Yeah, so let's talk about Arkham VR.
Right.
So to fill in the fans that aren't aware, I'm sure everybody is. There's a new VR game coming out. Batman Arkham Shadows is the name of it, and it is starring William Lane Craig as Batman. And in addition to that, it is. Wait, I said William.
You just
Roger
called
Craig
William?
Smith.
Yeah,
I
I'm about
said
to say,
William.
I'm about to correct you.
Roger Craig Smith. I'm
You
sorry.
said
Thank you.
William. Who the fuck is a
That's
William
a different
A.
actor.
Smith?
Different actor. Different actor. Roger Craig Smith. And
Okay.
so there's a lot to be excited about. And also, by the way, the story revealed some very interesting things. They're going to reveal the origin story of Harley. There's one catch, a big catch. It is exclusive to the Oculus, not just any Oculus, the Oculus Rift 3. If you have the second one, nope, doesn't count. If you have Oculus Rift 1, it doesn't count. It is only the Oculus Rift 3, which you can buy for the low price of $500.
I think they're called the MetaQuest.
MetaQuest. Thank you. Either way, it's
But yeah,
$500.
the MetaQuest 3 is $500. Apparently, I see so many people giving excuses saying that it's going to be like $300 when Arkham comes out. And I even looked at the sales. Apparently, they only sold like 2.5 million copies, or I'm sorry, 1.5 million copies at the end of last year. So even if if every person bought a Arkham Shadows, they're not going to sell like half of Arkham Origins.
So wait, no, let's put it this way. That means that less than half of the people who played or who purchased Arkham Knight in the first 6 months own a MetaQuest 3. That's like the staggering statistic there. 5 million copies of Arkham Knight were sold in 6 months. It sounds like less people own a MetaQuest 3.
And that's my biggest frustration is the fact that it's a VR game, which is like limiting its capacity to actually get out to people that want to play this game. Like the Arkham universe isn't a VR fucking franchise. It's a console PC franchise that's known to be a third-person game. So I'm excited to see what they do with this, because they got free flow combat, they got predator encounters, they got, you know, a potentially good story, and they got a good voice actor with it. But
Yeah.
the fact in VR just it kills. Like, you could see it in every comment too. Everybody's like, this cool, but it's in VR. It's like, you would be cool. You would be excited for it if you know, didn't know what it was, if you didn't know it was VR, but it's VR. So it's like, how can you really be that excited for it?
Well, and there's things about it, like you said, to be excited about. But then when nobody has this freaking headset for $500. And by the way, in this economy, I mean, there's literally record-breaking inflation. 82% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. It's not like people are just sitting on cash to spend on an extra console to play one game. Okay, this is not feasible for most people to actually buy this. And, you know, a $60, $70 game, that's one thing. But having them buy a whole new console to just play this one game, which, by the way, there's not very many games on this system to begin with. So it's really, you would just be buying it for this, maybe one or two other things. Another consideration is the studio made the Iron Man VR game. I was watching through the Iron Man VR game on YouTube, and it was horrible as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, the graphics are horrible. It was like a demo. You know what I'm saying? It was like a demo, a proof of concept demo. It did, to me, look like a real game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the screenshots for this game, the quality of it look way better. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. You know how these photos are that are like 6 months before the game comes out. Who knows if it'll actually be as good as the photos say? It's actually not 6 months. It's more like what, four, somewhere in that range. So I agree with Marcel. I'm excited to see what they do with the story. It's just frustrating that WB, of course, you know, full circle here, they always find a way to screw everything up, right? So they never can do something perfectly right. There's always got to be something wrong with it. And so, you know, we're getting Arkham Origins 2, which we've been asking for 10 years. There's just one major little kink in it. There's a major little asterisk next to that announcement that you know, we should discuss, because it is not exactly accessible to the Arkham community. But I mean, just imagine how hyped we would be. Imagine the hype difference between the community with this announcement, which there are people excited. I'm excited. I mean, I want to see, I want to play it. There's no question about it. I do want to play it. But just the difference in the hype between this versus if it was just Arkham Origins 2 on Xbox and PlayStation. Just think about the difference that we would be having in terms of this conversation. It would be we would be rushing to film this podcast a lot faster than we did if that was the case. Let's just put it that way.
We'll be theorizing left and right and trying to be as excited as possible for this. And, you know, for this game, it's like, I mean, we already know there's going to be Harley, there's going to be Scarecrow. And, you know, the way it pans out, it really does depend on how they really execute this VR system and how they actually execute the VR gameplay. Like, if it's like Arkham VR, where you're just pointing and clicking and moving, and you're just like punching bad guys and then moving again with, you're not even like actually moving, you're just like pointing at a spot and then teleporting to that location, it's going to feel weird. But if you're actually being able to move around, it says there's exploration. So who knows what the hell that means? We could explore Gotham, maybe. It looks like it's like,
yeah, they
Arkham
said there's
Gotham.
Exploration in Telltale games too. And you know how you would just like move around to, you know, like it's going to be like that. I'm telling you. But that's the problem with these VR games, is like, it's not a sophisticated technology enough yet. And they all really they just feel like proof of concepts. They feel like kind of demos that you would play at like some E3 event, and it would be like, this is the future. 10 years from now, we're all going to be doing this. And it's like, it's just not quite there yet. You know, it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, until I could play like No Player or Zero Player or Ready Player One. Jesus Christ, so much.
Exactly.
Until I could get teleported into the world and literally be Batman, where it's like a third person around me and I'm like running around just like bah, bah, to fucking criminals. Yeah, I'm not going to be excited until then. Until then. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, Jake. Sorry, we're talking a lot.
No, you're good. Yeah, I'm kind of two minds about it, because when it was announced and I saw that it was for MetaQuest 3, I was pretty upset. I'm not gonna lie. And I've been trying real hard to think of like a comparison that's adequate, because I do get pushback from people a lot on this, who are excited for the game. And I feel that the best way to describe it is, it's like, okay, let's say that Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire announced that they're coming back to do Spider-Man 4, and you're getting really excited. And then they announced that it's going to be an animated movie or a video game or something that's just not a theatrical blockbuster movie. You know,
Jake, you know what would be a better analogy for this is if Spider-Man, if Insomniac came out with those 3 Spider-Man games that just came out, and then we're like, yeah, we're gonna do Spider-Man VR. It's gonna
yeah,
be a 6-hour experience, and you're gonna be playing a prequel story where you get to swing around and do things, and yeah,
and
there's combat.
years to do it. If they wait 10 years and then bring it back in the form of VR, or if they said, hey,
Right.
we're doing a Telltale game. It's yeah. The thing that does interest me is that I was listening to an interview with the lead developer on the Kind of Funny podcast with Greg Miller. And this lead developer is very passionate about the Arkhamverse. He confirmed that this wasn't something that Warner Brothers came and like paid them off to make. They actually went to Warner Brothers and pitched the game. And he talked about how faithful they're trying to be to the larger continuity. And the thing that excites me is this feels like everything we wanted Arkham VR to be back in 2016. This is a game where you're going to be grappling and gliding in VR. They've brought the free flow combat system to VR. They've brought stealth encounters to VR. He said it's going to be about the scale and scope of Arkham Asylum. So yes, it's not going to be the next Arkham Knight, but it is a marked improvement over Batman Arkham VR in 2016. So that does get me interested. The other silver lining is that very frequently when a VR game does well, we see a AAA flat screen console bound game get announced soon after. So Iron Man VR came out, did well. They're now making a AAA Iron Man game. Prince of Persia, they did a VR experience for it. Now they have like 3 versions of the game coming out. Like they have 3 different Prince of Persia titles all coinciding, which I think is like a very weird decision in of itself. But it does show that companies do view VR experiences sometimes as like kind of a preemptive temperature gauge. Like, okay, is this still a franchise that people are interested in and going to play? So the likelihood of this game catching on, because it will be one of the more sophisticated VR games, is pretty high. And beyond that, that's where I could see Rocksteady executives and Warner Brothers executives saying, okay, let's do Arkham Origins 2 as a full AAA game where it's going to be like built on the back of the Arkham Knight mechanics. And so overall, I actually think this is good news for Batman Arkham fans. I do think that it does point to a promising future, but that doesn't negate the fact that a major chapter of the Arkhamverse that's going to show the origin of Scarecrow and Ratcatcher and Harley Quinn is going to be relegated to a much less accessible system. So it's really a hard pill for me to swallow, but I do at least appreciate that the developers are understanding of that and totally acknowledge the criticism and view it as valid and are addressing it rather than just arguing with the fans over it. Like that feels like a refreshing change of pace. I am excited and want to try it. I don't want to buy a $500 system to play it though.
Yeah, you're gonna have to watch it on YouTube now. Gotta watch some YouTube cutscenes, just like everybody did with Suicide Squad.
That's right.
But with this thing, it's like I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see it. But it's such a missed opportunity because they had a perfect concept, and it's sad because like why is WB the one that needs to be pitched this? Why can't they just be like looking at their sales numbers from Arkham Knight, Arkham Origins? I literally Googled that, and they both sold over 7.5 million copies each. So it's like if your main gaming franchise that hasn't been pumping out a game for the last 10 years and the last 4 games have sold like 7 million copies each, wouldn't that be a good idea we're usually used to instead of like relegating it to, like you said, just that one $500 new system? It's like people have already spent their $500 on the goddamn PlayStation 5. Nobody's going to try to like go out of their way to buy this, and if they do, then they obviously have the money for it. But like most people don't have the money for this, and it's just I've said it in my last video, it's sad to see because I genuinely think that most people want this game, but most people aren't going to be able to play this game. It's so out of their hands.
And no one would be upset if this was releasing alongside an actual console-bound AAA Arkham game. Like
Right.
the example you mentioned earlier. If for Spider-Man 3 Insomniac said this is exclusive to the PlayStation VR, people would be pissed. If they said we have a 30-minute VR experience that is complimentary to anyone who buys the game and owns the VR system, that would be fine. And it's similar here. Like if this was being developed and we were also getting a standalone Arkham Origins 2, I think people would actually be very optimistic and would be more open to trying the VR experience. But we're in this weird bubble where even like best case scenario is the game does great. Everyone loves Batman Arkham Shadow. Only a fraction of people can play it, but it's blowing up on YouTube. People are enjoying the story. And then it takes Warner Brothers 10 years to greenlight and produce another Arkham game. So yeah, it's weird. I mean, they've been working on this for 4 years now, 3.5 years. It'll be 4 years by the time it comes out. I don't know how during that time you don't have an executive say, hey, we have a new Batman Arkham experience coming out. Maybe we should make another Arkham game. That would make some money.
Because they thought they were going to make $1 billion on Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Why do you need to make Arkham if you're going to make $1 billion on Suicide Squad?
No kidding.
And then they're doubling down on the live service. So
this is WB exec logic. It's
Yeah.
WB exec logic. It's not really logic, but it makes sense to them. I completely agree with everything you said, Jake and Marcel. I think that there's a lot of upsides to this, and it could turn into something cool. The inaccessibility of it is really disappointing. But at the same point, I'm excited to finally be getting Arkham Origins 2. And of course, in classic WB fashion, the way it came about is laughable, disjointed, and downright just unbelievable. But at the same point, it is a new installment into the Arkham franchise. And I do think it's going to be a legit game from a story perspective. From the gameplay, we'll see. I don't know. My suspicion is that it's going to feel a little bit more like a demo, but as you aligned, Jake, and I think you convinced me on that point, I think it is true that they are, if Arkham VR in 2016 was a demo, this certainly is more expanded than that in terms of Arkham VR was laughable. They didn't even have combat. I mean, all you could do was throw a batarang. It was laughable. This game does look like it actually does have combat. It appears. We haven't seen it. We've seen photos of it, which is not necessarily inspiring a ton of confidence, but at least it exists. And then stealth. Like stealth could be really cool in VR. Again, they tried to do it in Arkham. I mean, it was horrible in Arkham VR. I think the whole thing was a joke. But this could be better. And they're spending 4 years on it.
Not to worry, everybody, but if you said there's 4 years being worked on that and they have no gameplay to show 4 months from release, I mean, that's a little bit worrisome. When are they going to show it?
This is what I'm saying is seriously, go search Iron Man VR gameplay. It's horrible. I'm just being honest.
That's a little weird. That's a little worrisome. That's like literally hearing that Spider-Man 2 was worked on for, 5 years, and now we're only getting gameplay the last 2 months of the fucking goddamn release.
It's the new industry standard. Games take to make. 10 years ago, they took 2. I don't know what. I was thinking about this a lot today, actually. I have no clue how it's taking companies so long. And the only thing I can think of is games are just being made over budget with way too high of ambitions. And I don't know why, but I definitely hope that executives can start scaling back. But what I think we're really learning from this Arkham Shadow experience is that this was a startup company essentially that started to make high quality VR games that is now pitched an Arkham game to Warner Brothers and is working on it. So if we want another good Arkham game, we just need to start a video game company and go and pitch Arkham Origins 2 to Warner Brothers. I think we've cracked the case.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We got to go over to 100 Star Games, hijack their leadership, and make them go over to WB and apologize for everything Septon Hill did.
Yeah, and on that note, guys, thank you for watching the Anonymous Throwdown Game Studio podcast. If you'd like to learn more about our game studio, check the link in the description below. And just we have a GoFundMe, and we have a pitch and a petition to make Arkham Origins 2. Yep. Do we have any staff that can make games besides Jake? No, he's the only one, but he'll do it.
Wait a minute.
Then Marcel
I have a contact.
Support.
No, I have a contact with Amazing Lucas. Amazing Lucas, that really popular YouTuber. He was asking me about the Spider-Man combat thing the other month because he's making a Spider-Man game. So if we go ahead and just bring him in with his 20 employees that he said he could make a better game than Insomniac with, then we could just go ahead and make Arkham Origins 2.
Bring him in. I'll be the creative director. I've shipped one game that got like a 4 out of 10 on Steam, and I got some like,
Bro.
yeah, dude, I'm perfect. I'm perfect. Let's do it.
Exactly. We got the YouTube developing studio.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
YDS. YDS.
And we're going to actually determine the entire story based on YouTube community post polls. So you guys you vote for what happens. It's like killing Jason Todd in the late 80s, you know, or was it early 90s? I don't know. Whenever he died, I think
So
80s.
the plot twist is that Joker is the main villain. Just know it's your guys' decision.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
your guys'
Yeah,
call.
just won in the poll. I'm sorry. It is what it is.
Or we might just take your poll and use it, and then go ahead and just use Joker anyways, the main villain, like WB does every single time they put him in the Arkham game.
Oh, Joker's the main character for sure. Batman
yeah.
is actually a side character. It's like the Dark Knight.
Damn.
That's what it's going to be. I mean, that's where the money gets made. Let's be real.
You're right. We're going to make a Suicide Squad version of that with Joker running around. With
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make Batman Arkham kills the Suicide Squad. And it's going to be Batman unceremoniously murking the Suicide Squad because he's going to time travel via Flash and go back and then murk all of them. And that's going to be the game. Can you imagine how satisfying that would be to be Batman? That's the one time I would actually be okay with Batman breaking his killing rule, is to kill Captain Boomerang. I would love that.
Oh, that'd be great. Yes.
Okay, should we wrap this up?
I think so. I think we got everything we needed to talk about. We got all off our chest.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching so much. It's been a pleasure. Anonymous Throwdown number. We'll just reboot it and start with number 1. It's number
1.
It's season 2, episode 1.
Season 2, episode 1. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to all of our channels wherever we post this, and we'll see you guys in our next videos.
Peace.
All right. That was perfect.